So I'm Tanya Kaiser. I'm your host today. I'm going to lead most sessions. Every now and then from time to time another Planet team member may host. I do have more than 15 years experience with project management across multiple industries, including technology, legal, nonprofit, and construction. I'm a longtime Microsoft geek and a big SharePoint nerd, so I'm really happy to be talking about SharePoint today. If you ever have any questions after our sessions, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. We also have a new page set up where we're listing all of the tips and tricks topics. You can go and register for them each month. So just a little bit about Planet before we get started. Planet has been providing expert support in the Microsoft world for over 18 years. We offer full services for the entire Microsoft Cloud and Productivity Suite, including advisory, deployment and training services, mobile application development and solutions, and strategic business consulting, including technology, compliance, and security guidance. We've got a lot of awards out there. You can read more about this on our website, but that's just a little bit about Planet. Okay, like I said, our topic today is so many lists, so little time, finding the right SharePoint list for your needs. So the last few weeks we've worked through Outlook. We've covered business email basics and calendars. Last week we got a little bit into a different mode, and we talked about reference tools in Word. Today we're going to look at SharePoint. So SharePoint can be either on-premise or online. Today I'm going to be showing the online version, but the lists that we're going to look at are available in both on-prem and online versions. So which list is the right list? SharePoint is a really powerful tool. It has a lot of built-in options for you, and one of those is their pre-populated lists. So they have 3 different lists that we're going to take a look at: the task list, the issue list, and then a survey list that you populate yourself. When I say that these are pre-populated, I mean they've already designed the columns for you that they think you're going to want. Now they have very subtle differences between them, and it's really hard to decide sometimes if you're just getting started which one should you use. So we're going to jump right into it and take a look at the different lists. So this is just one of my client demos. I just have an empty team site here, and we're going to take a really quick look at the task demo list. So the task out of the box comes with a timeline there. You can see you've got May, June, July. That's just the default view, 3 months, and you've got the basic controls for a new task or edit the list. I've actually just put in one topic right now for this task list, and if I click my ellipsis, you can see I've got the option in my menu to add to timeline or create a subtask. So if I click add to timeline, it now shows that on my timeline. You can see it changed the view automatically to a week since I had start and end dates. So this is one of the built-in lists. A lot of people like to use it because it does have a timeline, and it does give the option to create subtasks. So if I go to create subtask, it's going to pop up, and it's going to give me a box that I can edit directly on the screen. I can, of course, put in the due date, and we'll just put in due date for tomorrow. And then I also have the option to assign it to somebody. And then we just say stop editing the list. And you can see really easily it indents that underneath the view. And again, if I want to come in and add this to the timeline, I can do that as well. So you can see it still has my week view, and now I've got my additional item over here. So this is a really quick look at the task demo. If I wanted to create a completely brand new task, I would just open this screen up. I'm going to go ahead and click Show More so you can see the full list. And again, this is built in. I haven't had to come in and change any of these columns. We're using it right out of the box. So we already have two task items: finalize June topics, write descriptions. We're just going to add a third one just so you can see how these populate out. You've got the friendly calendar that you can work with to kind of track items. This task list does give you a start and end date, which is really helpful for some. And it also allows you to assign content to people. So if you can see that we're working in a demo, so I've got pre-populated people, and I can type in their name, and it'll pop up right away. Now you can see down here I also have a predecessor. So if I wanted to link this brand new item to another item, I can go ahead and do that. We have a priority level and then a task status. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and it's going to take us back to our task view. So you can see these are ordering by the due date. It's got the friendly dates, Monday, tomorrow, and then an actual date for when they get further out. If I want to come in here and add this one to the timeline, of course I can. You can see it's starting to populate my timeline with these different items. So as I add items, my timeline look is going to change. So this is just a quick look at the task list. We're going to go take another look at the issue tracking demo. So here's our screen. Again, these are fields that have already been created for you out of the box in SharePoint. You can see that some of them are very, very similar. So we're actually going to go ahead and duplicate these same topics just so you can see how they may look slightly different. We still have the option to assign it to people, which is a great feature. Now our issue status is active, resolved, or closed, so it's slightly different. If we go back to our task demo, usually our status, if we open a new one and do our show more again, we've got a priority, and then we've got task status, not started, in progress, completed, deferred, waiting on someone else. So you can see right away that's one slight difference, active, resolved, closed. We can see this is priority normal. We can put in a description. We can give it a category, and this is where you would want to go into these columns and modify them. And then we have related issues, but since this is our first one, we're not going to have anything in there yet. Now we have a due date. Back on our task list, we had a start and end date. On this one, all we have is a due date. And I'm going to click Save. And you can see we've just got a list of items. So if we go in to our menu, you can see there's no ability to add a sub-item. You can either edit it or view the version history. And if we go into Advanced, you just see the typical shared with compliance details that you'll find for any file or item within SharePoint. So taking a very quick look at these, we're going to go back to our task list. You can see why the task list offers a little bit more functionality right out of the box. It gives you a timeline, gives you the ability to create subtasks. You can link tasks just like you can on the issue tracking demo, but the task list tends to be a little bit more visual. So we're going to go ahead and add in that second item just so we can populate a little bit more content. We're going to leave it the categories, and now we have a related issue in there, so we can go ahead and add that. We're going to add a due date to this. We're going to click Save. You can see we made these two items related. We made this one a high priority, but we're still not seeing too many visual items here. Now if we go up to our list view, we can see that there's really not a whole lot of views, so it's not that those graphics are hidden, they just don't exist in the issue tracking list. So you can see issues, it's not a whole lot you can do with the issue tracking list. But for those who really don't need that visual, they just need a list and they want to be able to filter maybe on priority items, this may be a simpler list that you're looking for. So that's a quick look between the task list and the issue tracking list. Now the other one, I'm going to go back to our slide deck really quickly. The other one, this is a quick side-by-side. So again, you see very similar columns and categories. We have the task list on the left. We have the issue tracking list on the right. They both have a name field. One's task name, one is title. They both have assigned to fields where you can populate that with names from your organization. The task list does have a percentage completion. On the other one, the issue status goes through active, resolved. And then you both have descriptions. You have related content. On task list, it's called a predecessor. On the issue list, it's called a related issue, but they function very similar. Priority status, again, we have slightly different ones, but normal, high, and then status, not started, in progress, waiting on somebody else for the task list, and then on the issue tracking, it's active, resolved. If you need start and end dates, they're already there for you on the task list. If you wanted to add a start date to the issue tracking list, you could go in and add a custom column and make sure that it fits. But side by side, they look very similar. When you get to the page where they exist, the task list is the only one that's going to give you those subtasks and that graphical timeline view. So looking at those different things, you know, it may still be hard to decide which one is the right list. So if you're having a hard time deciding which SharePoint list is the right list between the task list and the issue tracking list, you want to start to ask yourself some questions. Do you want to assign items? We know both lists do that. Do you want to link related items? We know that they also do that. And then you can get a little bit more fine-tuned. You know, do you need to track the start and end date of items? There's a great, argument for doing the same thing in an issue tracking list. You may want to know the start of an incident or the start of an issue if you have a ticketing system, and you could easily add that column into the issue tracking list. The one that it comes down to a lot is, do you want to display items on a timeline? Everybody learns different, everybody interacts with information a little bit differently, and the task list does give you the option of seeing items in a list view, but it also has that nice graphic with a timeline where you can add items to it, and it's selective. You don't have to add every item, so you can really fine-tune. Maybe you only want the milestone items to show on that task list. So that's usually what it comes down to a lot, is you want to be able to add a visual piece to it. Now the next one that I wanted to show was the survey list. So this built-in list is largely unchanged. If you look at SharePoint 2010, it's pretty much the same. It's a very, very simple form, but even though it's simple, it does have some great features. It allows for branching. So if you ask one question, and you have a sub-question A or B, it can be set up to allow anonymous access. And the big argument for using the survey list is it's really useful when you need to keep information inside your company portals. So it's great to go out to Google and create a Google form and send out a survey, or to use SurveyMonkey. There's other ones out there, but those are all outside your company. So if you really want to send out a survey, even if it's anonymous, but you want to make sure that information stays within your company, you can use a built-in survey list. And I'm just going to show you just how easy it is to create a survey list. So I've added the survey to my team site, haven't populated any of it at all. You can see we have a very basic form. And if you were to go to SharePoint 2010 and you looked only at this area of your screen, you would see the exact same thing. So I really can't respond to my survey right now because I don't have any questions. You can see that in my actions, I do have the option to export it to a spreadsheet. So if you did need to do any further analytics, you can do that as well. But we're going to go into settings and add a couple of questions. I'm going to show you really quickly how easy it is to set up a survey. And the reason I included this in this session is if the task list doesn't quite fit your needs, but you like some things about it, and the issue tracking list doesn't quite fit your needs, but you like some things about it, you can create a new form using the survey to pick up some of those questions. So in this case, maybe we're going to do a survey about our topics, and we can say we want multiple lines of text. We're not going to really require responses for any of this, and we're just going to say next question. And we're trying to, maybe in this task area, we have our task list, we're tracking items. We have an issue tracking list, so we're tracking problems that people are having. Maybe the survey list we're sending out to participants of our sessions, and we're trying to gather additional information. We're trying to use all of these built-in lists to get some really good analytics. And that's another way people may use the different kinds of lists, focusing on the same topic, but they're really going after different information. So in this case, maybe we'll ask our, in this scenario, viewers, what kind of machine are they viewing on? And we're going to give them a choice, so we'll fill in our choices. And then here we can say branching logic. We need to add our question first, and then we'll come back to this. We're going to go ahead and click Finish. And then we're going to go back to our settings. And then this is where, if you see, I'm going to go right back. So we added in just our 2 questions. And I'm just going to click on the question where I want to add a branch. And once it pulls up that page, then I can say, I want to add a branch in here. I'm going to click OK. You can see now I have branching logic. So if I go back to that question again and change it for Mac as well, I can click OK. So if we go back to our survey, and you can fill in those questions and you can get further and further. I didn't make any of these required. We're going to come back shortly, but I just want to show you now that there's a question in there, I would click respond to the survey, and then it's going to ask me really, really easily, and I clicked Windows. We don't have our second branching question in there, but we could say next, enter choice 1, because I didn't set up my branch yet, and then finish. Now this is a very, very basic app, so one of the things that people struggle with is users are going to have to know to come in and click this link to respond to the survey. So if they come to this page and you've built out your questions and you've done the branching, there's not a lot visually to direct them, especially if they haven't worked with SharePoint. So some of the things that you can do is, what I see pretty often is maybe on the home page you add a tile that links directly to that respond to survey. So they really don't see any of the form on the survey demo page. They just have the link to the dialog box. Oh, and of course my survey is not working now. So we'll go back to my survey and let's see if we can add our additional question. That's not what I'm looking for. So you can see really quickly that your survey form can maybe fill in some of the gaps of your task list, of your issue tracking list, or again, it completely stand on its own as just what it is, a built-in survey. So if we just wanted to come in and I'm going to modify that one branching just so you can see how it is a little bit different. And we're going to click OK. And then I'm going to go back to that survey demo and we'll click that again. Now you should be able to, and it's still not working. Well, that's okay. So you saw a little bit how the survey demo works. Let me do a hard refresh and see if it'll pick it up then. Yep, so it looks like our survey demo is having some issues right now, but you did see from the beginning how that may work because you can build out a form. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of questions like I asked. You know, you can put in a question about what is, you know, your latest issue, and then have a field where people can fill it in. Now, SharePoint is still going to keep track of those responses for you. So again, here's a response that it was completed. It knows who completed it. It knows the date that it was completed. And then we've got a status here that we can change. And if we want to view that response, we have that on a separate screen. The one thing that the survey demo will give you is, let me go all the way back to it. It will give you a graphical summary of responses. So this looks a little different. There's only one response in here, but as you can see, as you build out your form, you can get a little bit of a graphic display. Now, I will tell you that if you have a survey and it has many, many branches in it, you have a lot of choices, you're not going to get that much data from the responses that are input, but if you keep it to one question, maybe 1 to 2 branches, like in my computer example, Windows, we listed the browsers, Macintosh, there's really Safari, Firefox. If we limit those to 5 or less and we send this out to a number of users and get responses, this graphic could be really, really powerful for you. Again, there's not a whole lot that you can do as far as changing the look of it, but it is one other area where you can get a graphical summary of responses. Then you also have the option to show all responses. Again, you're going to have to open each one individually unless you come in and create a brand new view. It's a very, very simplified app, not a whole lot to it, but it is one other area that you can use a built-in list to try and generate, you know, some information. And again, on the survey demo list, you do have this option to show a graphical summary of responses. The one thing I always mention, it is very simplified, the interface. So if you want to send it out to people and they're maybe not familiar with SharePoint, remember to make a custom tile or a page with the link directly to the respond link. And for those who maybe want to keep an eye on the data as it comes in, maybe include another link on a page to just that graphical summary. As you get more responses, you will start to see how it lays out. So those are the 3 built-in apps that I wanted to talk about when it came to the lists that are already built in SharePoint. We looked at the task list, which has that great timeline that a lot of people love, and the ability to create subtasks. We looked at the issue tracking list. Doesn't have any graphics, but could work really, really well for somebody who's trying to gather more input from users. And then we also looked at the survey list. very simplified, but does give you the option for the graphical response, does allow you to build out branching within a form. So when people answer a question, then they get an automatic response. So that sometimes saves some space in forms, and those are all three. You could use one or the other, or depending on the kind of information you're wanting to gather and display, you could use all three. So the other option in our last few minutes is to create your own custom lists. So if a pre-built list won't work, I talked about maybe trying to fit this into the survey list because you do populate your questions. But you can go completely from scratch and create a brand new list with your own columns. Three things that I would really recommend is before you even put the list on your site, really think about the order for your form columns before you start. So if it's natural for somebody to come in and fill out, an information card, you're not going to see state as the first item. Usually the first item is first name and then last name and then street address, city, state, zip. It'd be really, really unnatural and almost confusing to somebody to come in and see what is your current city, now what's your street address, now what's your zip code, because those things don't follow a natural order. So get together with whoever you're going to be sending this out to. It doesn't have to be very many people. Even if you bounce it off of one other person, do some whiteboarding. Think about the forms, maybe even storyboard that out, and then go in and start creating your columns. The other big point is use the existing columns that are in SharePoint when you can. So if you really need to know the date that an item was entered onto that form, you don't have to create anything because SharePoint already keeps track for you of the date when an item was created and who created it. So there's no need to put somebody's date field on there or a name field unless you have a situation of, I'm submitting this for so-and-so. The last thing, which I'll show you very briefly, is a dialog box. What that means in SharePoint is a dialog box lets that form pop out. So instead of seeing the form on a page, they will see a pop out for the form. And that's sometimes just a little bit easier for users to view and users to interact with. They don't get distracted by some of the other SharePoint menus. So I'm not going to create a very complicated form since we do just have a few minutes, but I want to just go to my site contents and just click Add an App, and we're just going to do a custom list. I'm just going to build out a very simple form with 2 columns. So you can see there's not a whole lot in here. If I click a new item, pretty much all it gives me is a title field because we always need that in SharePoint. But if I go up to my list ribbon and then all the way to the right with the list settings, now I've got my settings menu and I do have columns here. And you can see modified, created, those are already being tracked. I may not see them, but that information is in SharePoint. The same with who the original author, the creator is, and who the original editor, somebody who comes in and modify it. And then I've got the option to create a column or add from existing site columns. So right now I'm just going to create a brand new column. I'm going to say this is a single line of text, and I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to create a second column. And this is going to be multiple lines of text. And I am going to specify enhanced text, so I can use pictures, tables, and hyperlinks. And I'm going to add one more column. Actually, we'll call this audience. And we're going to make a choice for this one. So I'll fill in my choices. And we're going to say OK. So if I go back to my little list, and now I click New Item, you can see I've got those boxes that I created. Now I've done this all within SharePoint. I haven't used any third-party tools. I'm just using the built-in custom list, and I'm deciding what I want those to be. Now you can see that I still have my title here. So in this case, this may be a little duplicative. I don't want to enter a title and a topic twice. So what I can do is go back to Settings. And this is where, again, you want to use the built-in columns. So I'm going to click my June topic. I'm going to come down and I'm going to delete that. It's going to prompt me. And I'm going to go into title and I'm going to click that. And all I'm going to do is change the column name. I'm going to leave it exactly as it is. It's got a nice description. I know that it's a single line of text. I really can't modify that. and then I'm just going to click OK. So this was a built-in column. All I did was change the column name. Now let's look at my list again. If I click New Item, my June topic is the one required field. It's a built-in list. I still have my description and I have my audience. So I've mentioned over the last few weeks that we're going to be pushing out our June topics. Those are actually going to be posted this week. Our first item is going to be clutter. And I'm just going to click Save on that. You can see my custom list. Now, this is a list. I can come in and I can set views. I can change other items. But you can see this is just a custom list that I did really, really quickly. You can add lots of different columns. There's tons of built-in columns in SharePoint, but this is just one other area. So the one thing I did want to show was that dialog box. We're going to go back to list settings, and we're going to come into advanced settings. And right here where it says dialogues, launch forms in a dialog, we're going to say yes. Now do note, dialogs may not be available on all forms. We're going to click OK, go back to my custom demo, and now look what happens when I click New Item. So that form pops out at me, so it's kind of putting it in front of the screen. You can do that with other items. So if we look at our task list and we go into advanced settings, you can see we also have that dialog option. So sometimes that's just a little bit easier for users to interact with. It pops out that, and they can fill it out, and they know save, cancel. They're not distracted by any of the other SharePoint items there. It's just a little bit of a cleaner look. So those are our different task lists that we have today. I was going to cover SharePoint changes, but we're running out of time, so I'm going to keep it really, really short. And I'm just going to show you on screenshots. So this is our original homepage for SharePoint. These are some of the changes that were announced at the May 4th Future SharePoint event. So on the original Office 365 homepage, SharePoint has always been called Sites. One of the things that they announced is that that's going to be renamed to SharePoint, which is a very subtle change but a really exciting change, because it's sometimes confusing to people when they say go to SharePoint and they don't see anything named SharePoint in Office 365. So this change has just started to roll out to first release people, but it was really exciting to see that. The other big change was the homepage. So on the original SharePoint homepage, you still had sites at the top. You saw your promoted links, the tiles. You saw these lists of followed sites, recent sites, and recommended sites. They've really revamped the new homepage. You can see that things have been shifted to the left-hand side, and your frequent sites now have a card view similar to Delve. So I just started to see these last week. It was actually in a live training, so that was really interesting for the customer. But it's exciting to see them roll out. I may do a session on those changes later in June as we start to see more of them populate to first release people. So those are the items that we had today. Again, these are things that change in Office 365 all the time. And one of the things that we have available to keep employees and customers informed is called Evolve 365. So this is an on-demand self-help tool. It's a subscription-based help desk as a service for Microsoft Office 365 and all the Office applications. And again, things like that SharePoint change, we get to know that those are coming down the line, and we can kind of let our customers know, hey, FYI, you may see your site change. Things are still in the same place, but this is something to be aware of. If you're at all interested in looking at Evolve 365, we do have a free trial site where you can go and demo it. That's at freetrial.o365support.com. We also have some sample videos that you can check out. So that is a trial site. It does have limited content on it. If you are interested in Evolve 365, one thing you should be aware of is that we have thousands, I believe it's over 20,000 videos on the full Microsoft Office suite and Windows as well. Most of those videos are 20 seconds, 1 minute. They're very short. They get you the information exactly when you need it. We actually have a demo on it going on right now, but if you go to our website for Planet, you can find out when the free trials are there. So that's our session for today covering SharePoint lists. I thank everybody who joined. I hope you got some information out of it. We are posting these on our YouTube page, and we are going to be updating our Planet Technologies events page on the website as well. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. And I really thank you for your time today. Look for our June topics to be posted later this week. Thanks, everyone.